were emerging as the Nebraskan approached the door. Lincoln stepped aside into the shadow as they came out. The third and last cowboy was tall, lean, and set of face. Tawny-haired, a ragged, genuine gun-packing range rider, if Linc had ever seen one. "Ah, Mel, you're a sorehead," growled one of his companions, a short, bow-legged youth, somewhat unsteady from the oversupply of liquor. "Lucy gave you a raw deal, and no wonder. But because of that, you being sore ain't no reason why Monty here and me can't open our mouths." "Hell it ain't," flashed the cowboy called Mel fiercely. "Blab all you want, Smead, but not about that. Not here in town. And why the hell not, just among ourselves? You make me sick. Even if it's never been admitted among us, where and for why them Mavericks went, we know, and you know damn well, Mel Thatcher, that they—" "No, I never admitted it," interrupted Thatcher. "There's some things you can't talk about on this range. Go on, you fool, and you'll get what Jimmy Weston got." They passed on down the sidewalk, leaving Lincoln standing there in the shadow, transfixed at the mention of Jimmy's name. He would recognize Mel Thatcher when he met him again. Profoundly thoughtful, the Nebraskan went into the restaurant. While waiting for his meal, he tried to separate into detail the things he'd heard. The name Lucy. That name had occurred more than once in Jimmy's infrequent letters. Whoever that girl was, his old pard had been sweet on her, and somehow she had given this cowboy Thatcher a raw deal. Then there was the implied peril of speaking out loud concerning a certain something on that range. Something to do with Mavericks. It so happened that an unbranded calf had been one of Jimmy's weaknesses. Like most open-range riders, he had been convinced that a Maverick was any man's property. As a matter of fact, that was true according to range custom everywhere. But it was a law that only cowmen and cowboys who owned cattle could burn their brand on a Maverick. If they did not own any stock, the appropriation of Mavericks made them cattle thieves. Lincoln had heard that the ranchers of western Wyoming, hoping to induce rustlers to give their range a wide berth, had adopted the ruthless practice of hanging a cattle thief without formality. Bradway concluded that it was possible, though improbable, that Weston might have had something to do with Mavericks. In such case, however, it was hardly conceivable that he would have been shot while sitting at a card table. The report had been spread, he surmised, to cover murder. After having appeased his hunger and made a fruitless effort to be friendly with the far-from-loquacious Chinaman, Bradway got up, paid for his meal, and went out into the street. It was quite dark, and the air was thin and cold, with a tang of mountain snow. Lincoln remembered how Jimmy had raved about the Wind River Mountains, and how he himself had watched from the stage to see them appear, as if by magic, out of the haze of distance, and grow during 2 days of travel, until the jagged white peaks, magnificent and aloof, pierced the blue sky. Little as he had seen of this western Wyoming country, he could easily have been captivated by it, but for the grim mission which brought him from his home. He walked up through and beyond the center of the wide-open town. Then, crossing the street, he started back on the other side. He spent an hour of most diligent search before he again came upon Mel Thatcher and his two pals in a gambling hall. Thatcher was standing beside the table where his two friends were playing cards with two other cowboys. There was more liquor on the table than money. Smead appeared the worse for drink, and his luck clearly was bad. Thatcher's lean visage wore a worried look, but it showed none of the heat of dissipation that was reflected in the faces of the others. When Lincoln approached this cowboy, he was yielding to an instinct, deep and inevitable, for something had told him that here was a hombre who might supply the answers to some of his questions. "Howdy, Thatcher," he said coolly, as the other wheeled at his touch. "I've been looking for you particular hard." "Hell you say," returned Thatcher with angry insolence. "Never saw you in my life. I'd have remembered. So you must be looking up the wrong man." "Maybe so.